No one thought the truth about Connie Stevens would be so bad. She's finally telling it all at age 86. As a child, she saw a murder happen. She hid her violent marriage, and her addiction almost killed her. The powerful people who tried to shut her up and the millions of dollars they stole were even more shocking. Then there was the hero who came out of nowhere and saved her when everyone else had given up. Conchetta Rosalie Ingolia was born on August 8, 1938, in Brooklyn, New York. She is the mother of Connie Stevens. Her dad was a jazz singer who went by the name Teddy Stevens. Her mom was a singer. As a kid, she heard music all the time, but things at home were hard. She went to live with her grandparents after her parents split up. She was sent to Catholic secondary schools when she was 8 years old. For the next few years, that was her whole world. Being away from her family and following a strict routine made her strong-willed and independent. She was ready for what happened when she was 12, but nothing could have been better. She saw a murder one day in the streets of Brooklyn. It was a dramatic and life-changing event. Because her family was scared for her safety, they did something very bad. She was sent to Boonville, Missouri, to live with friends, which was a long way from all the trouble. Life was calmer and safer in the small town, but she would never get over what she had seen. Music was always with her. She used it as a way to escape and love it. She was naturally good at singing, and soon she was singing everywhere she could. That love led her to the next step. She went to Los Angeles with her dad when she was 15. It was a new beginning, a spot where dreams could come true. In Los Angeles, she changed her name to Connie Stevens, which was a stage name. At first, there wasn't much work. Anything to get her foot in the door, she took on small parts in movies. She also worked towards her singing goals. She joined a singing group called The Foremost and sung with 3 young guys. The guys in the group didn't last long, but they became famous as the Letterman later on. Connie didn't give up. At age 16, she joined another group called the Three Debs and took over as their bass singer. Being in an all-girls band gave her more knowledge and self-confidence. She sang, but she did other things too. She wished to be in movies. She was going to keep going until she got there. In 1957, Connie Stevens made her first movies in Hollywood. They were called Young and Dangerous and 18 and Anxious. These early jobs weren't very important, but they made her known as a young actor with promise. Young and Dangerous was a dirty teen movie about a group of rebellious teens who were into fast cars and getting into trouble. Stevens had a small part as Candy, while Mark Damon played the star. Even though it didn't make her a star, the part gave her practice in front of the camera at a time when teen revolt movies were very popular. That same year, she was in the play 18 and Anxious, which was about what it's really like to be a teen mother. Not as much is known about her part in this movie, but it was another step in her early career. Stevens signed a 7-year deal with Paramount Pictures in December of that year. Her pay would go up every week until it reached $1,500, and it would start at $600. For someone new, it was a big deal, giving people a stable income and the chance to get bigger jobs. But Paramount finally fired her, so she had to look for work somewhere else. It didn't slow her down. Instead, it pushed her towards the big moment that would make or break her career. Stevens got a big part in the 1958 musical comedy Rockabye Baby, which starred Jerry Lewis. The movie, which was a loose version of The Miracle of Morgan's Creek, gave her a chance to show how good an actress she was and how charming she was on screen. Jerry Lewis saw her in another teen movie from that year called Drag Strip Riot and liked her so much that he hired her for his own movie. Stevens' whole life changed after this choice. The movie Rockabye Baby made her more popular as an actress, but it also helped her get into singing. In the same year, she put out her first record, Conchetta, which had songs like Looking for a Boy and Blame It on My Youth. It didn't make the top of the charts, but it showed that she was more than just an actor. Hollywood liked stars who could do more than one thing well, and Stevens was showing that she was good at both acting and singing. Soon, TV became an important part of her rise to fame. She was a guest star on hit TV shows like 77 Sunset Strip and Maverick, and people quickly recognized her face. Warner Brothers saw how good she could be and kept her busy by putting her in several shows. She first played Cricket Blake on 77 Sunset Strip. She later played the same character on Hawaiian Eye, which made her a star. During this time, recording the comedy song Kooky Kooky was one of her favorite memories. Let Me Borrow Your Comb with Ed Burns, who is also under contract with Warner Brothers. The song was a big surprise hit. In March 1959, it got a number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100. Another thing that made her stand out was her special spot on Maverick. She was in episode 2 Tickets to 10 Strike with James Garner and a young Adam West. These TV jobs not only helped her learn new things, but they also helped her get fans who would stick with her. Warner Brothers liked to keep their stars present on a lot of different platforms, and Stevens gained a lot from this. She made the jump from small parts in movies to leading roles in big shows without any problems by the end of the 1950s. She was a rising star in Hollywood who could act and sing. Every part she played, song she sang, and public appearance she made helped shape her career. But this was only the start. Connie Stevens became well known for her part as Cricket Blake on the police show Hawaiian Eye, which ran from 1959 to 1963. The show took place in Honolulu and followed private agents as they solved cases on a fancy island. Stevens liked to play cricket, a singer in a bar and part-time photographer who often helped the police solve cases. She wasn't just a supporting figure. She was a strong, independent young woman who made the show more interesting, funny, and musical. Her part wasn't just fun to watch. Young women liked it because they saw cricket as a new and modern person who wasn't ready to settle down, but was sure she could make her own way. The music in Hawaiian Eye was one thing that made it stand out. Unlike other detective shows at the time, Stevens' singing was easily integrated into episodes, giving her a chance to show off her singing skills. It wasn't just a trick. The move was smart and helped Stevens' career as well as the show. Warner Brothers, which made Hawaiian Eye, saw how appealing she was and advertised her as a star with many skills. At about the same time, she made the funny hit Kooky Kooky, Lend Me Your Comb with Ed Burns from 77 Sunset Strip. The song with its funny back-and-forth words became a big deal in pop culture and helped her become known as a cool, fun young artist. In 1960, her song 16 Reasons was her biggest hit. This song went straight to number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. It did just as well in the UK. The song fit right in with the pop scene of the early 1960s thanks to its catchy tune and Stevens' young, bubbly voice. Teenagers, especially girls, got along with her. The younger generation admired her because she was stylish, strong, and full of energy. It wasn't an accident that 16 Reasons was a hit. The makers of Hawaiian Eye and her record company worked together to promote her singing on the show. They made sure that viewers saw her as both an actress and a singer. Albums like Conchetta and As Cricket, which have songs like the one she sang on TV, support this idea. When Hawaiian Eye stopped in 1963, it was hard for Connie Stevens to stay in the public eye. She was well known for her part as Cricket Blake, but it was hard for her to find her next big job. She got parts in movies with Troy Donahue in 1961, such as Parrish and Susan Slade. There were some good parts in these love comedies, but they didn't make her a big star. Also, her singing career, which had given her hits like 16 Reasons, began to fade as other acts and styles took over. When she had problems with her deal with Warner Brothers, things got even worse. When she asked for bigger parts and more artistic freedom, the company wouldn't give it to her. When she said she wanted to try out for My Fair Lady in 1962, it caused one of the biggest fights. That was stopped by Warner Brothers, resulting in a very public fight. When the company finally let her go, she wasn't getting any more parts. Without their help, it was hard for her to get regular work in Hollywood. Stevens turned to live shows because he wanted to stay in the business. As a bar singer in Las Vegas and other big towns in the late 1960s and early 1970s, she made a name for herself. Her shows had both classic songs and her own hits, which kept her fans interested. She even had a lead role in The Star-Spangled Girl on Broadway in 1967 and won a Theatre World Award for it. She was able to keep her career going even though she wasn't getting lead parts in Hollywood because she switched to live shows. Her personal life was also hard at times. She raised their 2 children, Jolie and Trisha Lee Fisher, by herself after getting divorced from singer Eddie Fisher. Things got tough in terms of money. She kept getting parts here and there, like in Grease 2, 1982, and Back to the Beach, 1987, but they weren't the kinds of jobs that would bring her back to her old fame. At the same time, Connie Stevens' love life was not easy. At first, her marriage to actor James Stacey in 1963 looked good, but there was a lot of trouble going on behind the scenes. They quickly became less stable because Stacey had a reputation for being very serious. It wasn't clear at the time, but it turned out that their marriage was tainted by abuse. It was over by 1966. Stacey's early career looked good, but he couldn't find steady work in movies. In the end, he found success on TV, getting his big break in the 1968 movie Lancer. He was no longer married to Stevens at that point. His life took a terrible turn when he was in a terrible motorbike accident in 1973 and lost his left arm and leg. At the time, his lover died. Even so, he made an amazing return, and his efforts got him nominated for an Emmy. But he never got over his personal problems. He was married to actress Kim Darby for a short time. They had a daughter that together named Heather Elias. Stevens, on the other hand, went ahead. She kept working as an actress and singer, and she married singer Eddie Fisher just a year after getting divorced. The news talked about their relationship in a wrong way. While he was seeing Stevens, Fisher was still formally married to Elizabeth Taylor. Stevens was already pregnant with their first child, Jolie Fisher, when the divorce was finalized. The marriage wasn't healthy at all. Both had problems in their personal lives, like drugs, which made things worse. In 1968, they had their second daughter, Tricia Lee Fisher. But by the next year, their marriage was over. In 1969, they got a divorce. Stevens was left to take care of their children by herself. It was already getting worse for Fisher's job at this point. While he used to be a well-known singer, he was now better known for the number of failed marriages he had. His time with Stevens was just one more rough patch in a long line of personal and work problems. Stevens, on the other hand, only cared about her kids after she got divorced. As a single mother in Hollywood, it wasn't easy to raise Jolie and Tricia Lee Fisher. There wasn't a lot of money, and it was hard to balance work and being a mother. But she was set on making sure her girls had a good life. She chose not to get married again, unlike her past, which was full of bad relationships. She instead worked hard at her job and made plans for her family's future. In the show business, she didn't always have steady work, but she never gave up. In the 1990s, she changed her life by becoming a businessman and starting a popular beauty brand that helped her get by financially. It was a big change. She was finally in charge of her own life after years of not knowing what would happen. Both of her girls went into show business like she did. Josephine Fisher became famous on TV for her role as Paige Clark on the series Ellen and Joy Stark until death. Tricia Lee Fisher started out young, acting in her mother's Las Vegas shows. Her first movie role was in Stick. After that, she was in Pretty Smart, Hollywood Chaos, and CHUD2 Bud, the CHUD. She even tried to make music, and in 1990, she released a CD. Jolie and Tricia have talked a lot about their mother's impact on their jobs. The problem Stevens had in the business served as a guide, teaching them how to be strong, start over, and never let your problems define you. Their family stayed close. They performed together sometimes and helped each other through the ups and downs of Hollywood. Connie Stevens made a name for herself in show business, but when acting and singing jobs started to dry up, she found another way to make a living. She changed her job at Financial Future when she started her skincare line, Forever Spring, in 1989. A lot of people think the name began in the 1990s, but it actually began a year earlier. It wasn't just a side project. She gave her all to being a business, and she made sure it worked. Forever Spring got its start on the home shopping network HSN, where Stevens promoted her own goods live on show. It was smart to do this. By showing up herself, she used her fame to connect with customers and earn their trust. HSN had faith in the brand so much that they bought $1 million worth of goods. There was a catch, though. Stevens had to pay for everything herself until the stock ran out. It was risky, but it paid off. Face creams with collagen and ginseng were among the goods that quickly became famous. Customers loved how well they were made, and the brand's growth was even greater than expected. This business came at the right time for money. As acting jobs dried up, Stevens needed a regular income to keep her family going. She has talked about how she started Forever Spring in part to pay for her daughter's schooling. The business turned out to be more than just a way to get by. It grew into a business worth many million dollars. Norton Stein, who used to be her manager, later sued and said that he was due a share of the income. Stevens said this wasn't true, but the case showed how much money the brand was making. She also did smart things with her money when she bought real estate. She proved that she was good at business in more areas than just beauty when she sold her Holmby Hills home for $17 million in 2016. Over time, her success in business, entertainment, and real estate added up to about $20 million in net worth. Stevens was successful on HSN in more ways than one. She knew how to get people interested. A big part of her brand's growth was infomercials, and she was able to connect with people in a big way. She didn't just list the perks of the product. She told stories and showed how they worked. This small touch made a big difference. People bought more than just face care. Their faith in her and belief in her honesty were high. She went into more business than that. In the 1990s, she opened the Connie Stevens Garden Sanctuary Day Spa in Los Angeles to get into the health business. This made her even more well-known as a beauty and health business owner. She went from being a Hollywood star to a business leader, showing that she could change and do well outside of show business. Stevens spent time doing good things for other people besides business. As a way to show her dedication to education and culture protection, she started the Wind Feather Project, a scholarship program for Native American students. She also gave money to groups that help people with cancer and went on USO trips with Bob Hope to entertain troops in Southeast Asia and the Persian Gulf. These actions added to her memory in a new way, one that is built on more than just making money. It is built on giving back. Around the end of the 1970s and beginning of the 1980s, Connie Stevens had a lot of parts in movies and on TV. In 1979, she was the lead in Love's Savage Fury. In 1980, she was in TV movies like Murder Can Hurt You and Scruples. In 1981, she was in Aloha Paradise and Sideshow as well. Then came Harry's Fights that same year. In 1982, she got a part in Grease 2, which wasn't as good as the first movie but still added to her growing list of credits. She was also in the news because of TV. She was a guest star on TV shows like Hotel, Fantasy Island, and The Love Boat. People have also seen her in Castle, Murder, She Wrote, and Tales from the Dark Side. Even though these weren't major parts, they kept her busy. She was still going strong in her mid to late 1980s. Crowdies, 1986, Back to the Beach, 1987, Tapeheads, 1988, and Bring Me the Head of Dobie Gillis, 1988, all had small parts for her. Also around the same time, she was on a lot of Bob Hope's USO shows. Among them was his 1988 Christmas show from the Persian Gulf. Even though Hollywood wasn't giving her the big break she wanted, she was still a part of the business. Setting herself a big goal when Connie Stevens first got behind the camera was a big deal. She directed her first movie, Saving Grace B. Jones, in 2009 when she was 70 years old. She also wrote and produced a movie. She became one of the oldest female directors to direct her first full-length movie, which was a big deal. Based on true events, the story is about a young girl named Carrie who goes to live with family friends in Missouri after going through a bad time in Brooklyn. But the movie is mostly about Grace, played by Tatum O'Neal, a woman who just got out of mental hospital and is having a hard time fitting back in. The story of the movie is set against the terrible Great Flood of 1951, and it deals with family, mental illness, and being strong. The movie got mixed reviews. The acts were praised by some, especially Tatum O'Neal, Michael Biehn, and Penelope and Miller. Some people thought the direction could have been more controlled, but Stevens' work was still appreciated despite the criticism. The New York City International Film Festival gave O'Neal the award for Best Actress. Stevens showed her dedication to telling stories by choosing a story with so many complicated and emotional parts for her first full-length film. The themes she chose weren't just for theater. They were based on her own experiences and what she had seen in her life and work. Stevens never stopped playing, even after he started directing. She kept getting parts in movies, which showed how versatile she was and how much she loved her job. In 2014, She was in the comedy drama Just Before I Go, which was directed by Courtney Cox. The movie is about family, friendship, and growing as a person. Stevens played Nancy, a warm character in a group that also included Sion William Scott, Olivia Thirlby, and Garrett Dillahunt. Then, in 2016, she got a part in the movie Search Engines, which was about being addicted to technology and how families interact during the holidays. One of the best things about Search Engines was that she got to work with her daughter, Jolie Fisher. They played family members and brought their real-life friendship into the roles. It was easy for them to get along. They were very real in their parts, which the crowd liked. It was more than just business to work together. It was personal because they could do something they both loved and spend time together. Stevens had always backed her daughter's work in show business, and Jolie had already made a name for herself by acting in TV shows like Ellen and movies like Inspector Gadget. It wasn't just playing to work together on search engines. The goal was to honor their bond as artists and family. For decades, Connie Stevens had been in the public eye because of her skill, beauty, and strength. But in 2016, life gave her a problem she had never seen before. While she was eating at a diner, she had a huge stroke that changed everything in an instant. She couldn't move her left side at all, so she couldn't walk or do even the easiest things. Because the stroke was so bad, there was no time to lose. She was taken to the hospital right away and had to fight the effects of being paralyzed for 16 days. The stroke was more than just a physical setback for Connie, who likes to do things on her own. At that time, she had to face a new reality in which she had to work hard at everything she did. It became hard for her to do the things she used to do without thinking twice. But she had never been one to give up. She didn't want the stroke to define her, even though it made her angry and scared. Her children, Trisha and Jolie, became her rock of strength. They were there for her through all of her problems and gave her strength when the road to healing seemed too hard. Connie knew it would take time to get back in charge of her body, but she was ready to fight for it. She had to go to physical therapy every day, which made her reset her muscles and learn even the simplest moves all over again. After the stroke, she went to speech and physical therapy, which helped her get back the skills she had lost. Stevens has left her mark on many things. Her name is set in stone. In other words, on 3 different success paths. In Palm Springs, Hollywood, and even Toronto, her stars shine to show how important she was. But she has a lot more of an impact than just being known in the show business. It was in 2005 that she became a leader in the Screen Actors Guild. She took over as secretary-treasurer when James Cromwell quit. It was the second most important chosen job in the union, which came with a lot of duty, but she took it on. Then, in 2013, her hard work was recognized in a very different way. She had always been with the USO, helping American troops wherever they were stationed for more than 40 years. The National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution gave her an award for her service. She was given the Founder's Medal for Patriotism. Marian Wright, who is the President General of the group, gave the award herself. On the other hand, Stevens was honest about her job in 1988. She hadn't given up, but she wasn't where she wanted to be. It was still her dream to work on movies with Marlon Brando, but she knew she had to get hot first. She thought that Hollywood didn't give her enough respect. She was a star all over the world and performed every holiday season in Japan and Hong Kong. That she was famous wasn't because of a popular TV show, movie, or album, but because she had made something that would last. Cricket, the role she played years before, was still loved by her fans. That was not all she saw herself as. She was famous, and her business was run by 17 people. But Hollywood didn't seem to care about her, even after all of that. She saw other actors get production deals after being in shows like Dynasty or Falcon Crest, but she had a hard time getting the same chances.